Hello, everybody. We are here live on the Erin Cruz show. There are only a handful of days left before the general election here, November 6th. We're trying to get a move on. Our regularly scheduled show is on Wednesday, but we're not going to wait till Wednesday to have some of these candidates on with us because they need all the time they can get to get out the vote, build momentum, and get the good word out to the people.
Thank you.
We have online with us here today Mike. He's running for California State Assembly, District 58. He's running hard. Yes. He's running against a very staunch progressive who's lawless. We have a lot of updates. We have an endorsement, right? A new endorsement?
We do.
For your campaign?
A lot of us are very familiar with the John and Ken show on AM 640.
Yes.
And if you go to their website for the midterm election recommendations, in all of Los Angeles County, they only endorsed one campaign for the assembly.
Really?
And they endorsed our campaign because it's about replacing somebody who doesn't need to be there.
Right.
With somebody who wants to get up and go to work for everybody.
Absolutely.
I am tickled to death.
That is wonderful. And you also have another endorsement, don't you? I thought I read that you had another endorsement, no?
Yes. No,
I mean, they're just adding up. It's awesome.
Yeah, the Association for Los Angeles Deputy Sheriffs, they endorse very few challengers.
Right.
And I spent the last 3 to 4 months working with them, getting to know them, and vice versa.
Right.
And they provided their endorsement for our campaign of change. Absolutely, at 7,800 deputy sheriffs in Los Angeles County, plus people who work for the DA's office.
And that's a competitive endorsement, right? I mean, it's not something they just hand out to anyone. I mean, they really take a look at what you stand for.
Correct. Oh, when I went into the interview, they had their binder.
Oh, I'm sure they had their binder.
These are seasoned law enforcement officers.
Yes.
There was about a dozen of them. And when I went in there, they pointed to the chair, and they said, "That's where you sit."
Right.
And I loved it. Because they are very, very concerned about what this legislature did to law enforcement. They're very concerned about what it did to us.
Absolutely,
the people who get up and go to work every day. And the criminals were the victors.
The criminals are getting all the breaks. The criminals are getting off easy. Felonies now misdemeanors. Misdemeanors now no big deal. You know, it's really, really a crime, literally, what Sacramento has done to the U.S. citizens residing in the state of California. And I'm so glad to hear that law enforcement is on the side of what's right and good, as they should be, and on the side of those candidates that will do the good hard work up in Sacramento and serve the people of California and the people in your district. So, you know, what else do you have to update on? Because, you know, I've been following your race, and there's some pretty interesting things that you've had going on.
As I shared with somebody on the John and Kevin show on Friday, the subject matter is tabloid grade, which is sad. But what has happened over the last 8 to 10 days is my opponent was supposed to go participate in an event at Claremont College.
Right.
At the last minute, she canceled. She stood him up. And I can only imagine how furious they were, because they had this advertised, they had people showing up, and here, find out she decided not to show up. The more troubling event that has occurred in the last several days, as you know, there's an open, active investigation into the sexual assault.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
A former staffer, alleged that he was groped and propositioned while she was drunk at an event that was sponsored by the Assembly and the State Senate at a softball game. And the investigation is still ongoing. So she partnered up with another member of the Assembly, Assembly member Clerk Silva, and then also her husband is a member of the Fullerton City Council. Right. So the 3 elected officials got together because Danny Fierro, the gentleman that has stepped forward, owns a public relations company. And so they approached one of his better clients and pressured him to drop Danny, not because of performance, but because of intimidation. It's also called witness tampering. So here you got an elected official conspiring with two other elected officials to intimidate a witness while you got an active investigation going on. That right there should enrage voters to realize no more. We need to make some serious changes on November 6th, and this seat is one of them.
Well, you know, the deal is this. Mainstream media isn't highlighting the things they should be highlighting today. I'm very proud of those individuals you mentioned earlier who had you on the show to talk about these issues. You know, it does sound like tabloid, but this is real life. This is really going on.
Yes.
Within, you know, within...
It's a federal crime,
right,
for an elected official to intimidate and harass a witness for an ongoing investigation. I hope the FBI has gotten involved, because they will stand up to her and her fellow politicians that are trying to intimidate other people, and they will investigate and do what's right, which is investigate, arrest, and have them sentenced to jail, because this is absolutely wrong that a politician is allowed to conspire with other politicians to intimidate a witness.
It is, and you know, it's like I said before, it's criminal that you have people who are supposed to be leaders in their communities up in Sacramento legislating, making the laws, the moral laws we all abide by to have a strong community, and here they are doing such just disgusting things. I mean, it's criminal. It's just it's out of this world. I mean, it goes past. You're right. It goes past tabloid. It goes almost to the sci-fi, but straight down to that corruption level you're talking about, like mob tactics, mob rule. And I think that we need more people like you who are not afraid to speak out about that corruption, because, you know, if the media isn't going to cover it and only certain people are, the public may not even really realize, because they're busy paying their taxes, going to their job, getting Johnny and Jane to their activities after school. They may not even realize what's going on.
And what a lot of people
needs to stop.
This is the second investigation into her behaviors.
Yes.
The first one, she blackmailed the investigator and said, if you continue, I'm going to name 3 men from the assembly, of which at least one is married, that she has been having sex with in her office. It worked. The investigator backed down, shut down, and then she thought she had a victory, until, thank goodness, the Los Cerritos News exposed the story that now we're talking about sex with other elected officials in the office. So this whole race, we've got an incumbent that's gone from, I'm going to tell everybody about the men I have sex with in my office that you, the taxpayers, pay for, to now we are conspiring with other elected officials to witness tamper and intimidate a witness.
No.
My gosh, what's next?
Well, you know, this is just, I think this is eye-opening, yes. But this is a reality we all need to face, that these people aren't perfect, and they're far from perfect. They're criminal, and I believe it's more rampant than we know, especially in that progressive left, radical mindset of the Democrat Party, especially currently. You know, we have to be good, solid citizens and do the hard work to get strong people elected. You know, I don't want to talk anymore about the failure that we currently now have in the assembly. I want to talk about you, Mike, and what you have planned to do in terms of looking out for the citizens that are there that need strong representation.
So let's talk about the crime issues. We cannot go back right now and erase the nonstop bills that got passed that Jerry Brown signed into law that helps the criminals. So what we could do is organize better neighborhood watch groups. The last thing the criminal wants is a lot of people watching them. And so that is part of the plan of, you know, what can Mike go do that others may want to or can't do? Well, what Mike can go do is meet with local law enforcement,
Right.
meet with the local neighborhood watch groups, and then raise the discussion level, increase participation, so that way we could try to drive some of that criminal element out of our parks, out of our neighborhoods.
Right.
The second piece, everybody's talking about affordable housing. I've been in California since 1991, and I've listened to the politicians talk for decades. Here's what we specifically can go do. How many more empty Sears and Kmarts do we need before the cities should realize it's time to rezone to mixed use? The second piece, which is even more important, it is not to sell off those properties to a developer who's going to charge the highest price possible. It is to be able to sell off those properties to developers who say, I will come in as a developer, and if I'm going to put 40 homes on this former property where Sears is located, or Kmart, or any other empty commercial lot, we're going to build moderate priced housing. The numbers come out every month of what the median price is per zip code. So all the developer has to do is commit to sell 10% below, and then take a percentage of those 40 units, for example, and say 6 or 8 of them are going to be set aside for low income. And can you imagine the positive energy that we will get when we reach across to Habitat for Humanity and say, you are the expert at knowing how to find low income people who qualified and deserve an opportunity to be able to buy one of those units that'll be designed a little bit different, so the price point is even lower, and then they can get a house for themselves. This is about including people, not excluding. So if you include the cities, the developers, the Habitat for Humanity, we're going to price it moderate. I've talked to developer after developer, and I've asked them point blank, can you make a profit on a condo that's going to be sold for $400,000 to $450,000? Of course they can. So let's open up those windows of opportunity with the city say, we will expedite zoning in an agreement for moderate priced housing with a set aside for low income.
Now, I do
have a seat at the table.
I do agree with you in that, Sacramento has done nothing but regulate business owners, property owners, you name it, to death, pretty much, or at least outside of California. So we do need, especially for those types of situations, permitting, all those things it takes way too long. The process is outrageous. I've talked to many developers as well, and they just are beside themselves. Other states don't have these issues. Other states aren't this overburdened with government thwarting business, because that's what it is, right? Commerce.
Well, California and New York are the only two states that export hardworking people to states that have less taxes and less regulation.
Right. So I agree with you there.
Cities have to expedite the zoning.
I don't see any reason why they shouldn't. And I don't even see why the process is as it is currently. It's not serving the people. And in terms of process, there are plenty of places that do it for a lot less, a lot quicker, and a lot more efficient. So what does that say? So I agree with you there. So now in terms of, the crazy legislation currently that we're seeing up there in Sacramento, how are you going to work with those people across the aisle that don't seem to listen to reason? Because that's a big question people have right now. Because I know that what you do, you're not in my district, but what choices you make up in Sacramento impact my life. So for example, I might be concerned, how do you think that you're going to be effective with such a liberal, left-leaning amount of people up there to get legislation passed?
Well, a lot of it is I actually want to get on some of the committees that deal with the so-called Me Too issues. Mm-hmm. But here's the difference. They want to address it through identity politics.
Right.
I want to address it for our safety should be expected. Mm-hmm. You violate our safety, you will meet law enforcement. That way it doesn't matter who you are, what class you are, where you work, where you don't work. If somebody violates you, they need to understand they're going to meet the handcuffs.
Right, as they should.
Jail. That's how I want to work with the so-called Me Too people, granted, they're in charge. That's fine. There's probably not a lot of men who say, I want to go help make sure our children are safer. I want to make sure our children are safer. I've got a big mouth. I'm not afraid to use it. I've been using it for 8 years to help victims of crime after my daughter was a victim of crime. And my sister came out 30 years later talking about how she was drugged and raped. I wear those shoes. And I can look any parent in the eye and say, I get it. I've been there. I've done that. I understand. And so it happens less. It needs to be, there is swift justice.
Right.
For these perverts that prey upon our children and the perverts that prey upon the elderly. And they need to understand jail is going to be in their future for a long time. And that's how you work with the minority party.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because I think that what people lose sight of is that this isn't about Republican or Democrat. This is about right and wrong. And it's about what's right and what's wrong, and how do you do what's right for the community in your service up there in Sacramento. And that people need to recognize that doesn't matter if they're man, woman, old, young, what their ethnicity is. They matter. I was at a talk last night, and Pastor Burns said, something we've all been saying for a very long time, but it just was so good to hear it on the stage. All lives matter. Exactly. Even and especially the unborn. And I believe that's true. People have to get out of that space of looking at this in an identity politics way. Politicians that do that are wrong in what they're doing. And so I'm glad to hear what you're saying, because this matters. And if you're a mom, this matters. If you're a dad, this matters. If you're a sister, this matters. A brother. I mean, this all matters. Safety is very important. And we do have mass unlawlessness here right now in California. So now I was reading, we're going to kind of go on a little bit back to your incumbent, because I was also reading about how Flint donated.
I don't think there's any other race in California where you have Larry Flint, who's been making donations to my opponent, and Jane Fonda also made a $2,700 donation earlier this month.
They maxed
I don't think
out.
There's any other incumbent or challenger who's being financed by Jane Fonda and Larry Flint, except for my opponent.
Well, I'm going to put a call out there right now to the people who are listening. If you have the ability to max out your contribution to Mike Simpfenderfer,
thank you.
I mean, please just go to his website. You see his name right there. His district is Assembly R. He's a Republican, 58. And go to his website and contribute. We need more Republicans and even independents to stand up for what's right and to back the people like you who want to do the good work. And it only takes a few people to do that to really make an impact, because, you're a grassroots candidate. And
yeah, I do not have an expensive overhead. I don't have a campaign manager. I am very blessed that I have some extraordinarily talented people who are very expensive, who have said they recognize the opportunity to make a change, and they're helping me out. And I'm going to forever be indebted to those that have done that. My wife is my photographer.
Isn't that wonderful?
So I don't have a separate photographer or somebody doing my videos. It's my wife and her phone.
Right.
And we're doing it. It's about as low cost as I can get. And so when somebody thinks, can $75 or $100 make a difference?
Absolutely.
Right, it can make a difference in my campaign.
It can buy you a box of door knockers. I mean,
that, and more importantly, it can get ads that are targeted to people who are going to go vote and who are open to a change. You got to remember, Planned Parenthood refused to endorse my opponent. Emily's List refused to endorse my opponent. Equality California refused to endorse my opponent. Teamsters, Joint Council 42, 250,000 Teamster members and retirees refused to endorse my opponent. They have already walked away. So all I'm asking people to do is do the same as Emily's List and walk away. I am not going to embarrass you. I'm not going to have a kegerator. When you come to our office, you're going to find a cup of coffee.
Right.
Some
You're
water.
going to find traditional family values. You know, I interviewed Mike. For those who are watching right now, you could take a look at his prior interview where we really look at his background and we talk about the basics of who he is. You can also go to his website to find out more and see what he's been up to. But that's what it comes down to, Mike, is that you are a family man. You know, and you hold true to those value systems.
People that I'm going to ask for counsel are not people like Jane Fonda and Larry Flint. They're people like Craig Huey and the pastors that he works with. And I also want to make it very clear. If you agree with nothing but maybe one item with me and you want to come to the office to talk about it, it's your office.
Right. It's the the people's seat. Yes. I love it.
It's your office. I don't care if you're the opposite politically of me. It's your right to come into the office and say, Mike, can you hear me out for 10 or 15 minutes? You're darn right. You pay the taxes. This is yours. Too many of the politicians, like my opponent, feel entitled. There's no entitlement here. It's called get up, go to work, and I'm going to earn the right to be there, not expect it.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, I think that we've seen this throughout the state. I've been working to do these interviews quite a lot for candidates for assembly and for Congress. And the incumbents are lazy. They don't feel the need to talk to the constituents, to go to the town halls or to the debates, or even to a forum where they share their platform. The other guy shares their platform or gal, and people can ask questions. They don't feel like they need to do anything like that.
No,
they're
she's
entitled.
Refusing to do it.
They as a matter of fact, Gavin Newsom didn't even put any wording inside of his inside of the general election pamphlet about himself. He feels like he's going to win. That's how self-absorbed they are, and we have to step away from that and go back to servant government, citizen-run government, actual patriot-run government, and back to the people, and not those detached, career, corrupt politicians. Now, where do you stand on the gas tax? We touched on this a little bit, I believe, last time we spoke. You know, has that been something that's come up with a lot with your constituents?
It does, and it's not so much the issue of should we fix the roads or not. Of course we could. It's how we're doing it, and the legislature showed their true colors.
Yes.
They passed SB 1 because they gave themselves the right to continue to do what they've been doing, which is steal the money.
Right.
And that's the biggest issue that people have, is they don't mind putting in some extra money if it was really going to where it was supposed to go, and if the money we've already been paying was going where it's supposed to go. I've shared with people on both sides of this issue that Proposition 6 has more to do with how angry people are at Sacramento, and that's what's going to drive it to pass. They are so afraid of this passing, they gave it the craziest title in the world.
Yep.
The craziest description.
Yep.
Shows the continued desire to deceive us. And I think that's why we're going to see 6 passed, is not because whether you agree roads should be fixed or not. It's how devious the politicians were in putting this together.
They're arrogant. They're absolutely arrogant.
Yeah.
It's tyranny. Is really what it is, because they're doing what they want to do, how they want to do it, and they don't care who they hurt in the process, and they really don't. They aren't about information, and they shouldn't be in power, frankly. You know, I was also reading about. You know, you sent me a story about SB 1437.
Yes.
That was hard to read.
It's hard because I know people that have been victimized, you know, by gun violence.
Right.
And now they're saying, you know, on para laws, where the Gaines can take a 15-year-old, say, you are going to go murder somebody, because if you don't, we're going to murder your relatives in Central America. So what's the 15-year-old kid going to go do? Murder because they're desperate to keep their mom and dad or their aunt and uncle alive in another country. And so now we've decided we're going to actually help the gangs carry out their death threats and their death sentences to people, because if you're 14 or 15, we're not going to hold you accountable, and we're going to do it in juvenile court. My God, help us.
Well,
and then you look at the people that plan. Now all of a sudden, if I help somebody plan a murder, I'm going to be off the hook. I'm going to get minimal time in jail. And then with other legislation that was passed, I can go to court and say, well, I was easily coerced into helping plan this, and if you give me 2 years of state-paid mental therapy, we can come back in 2 years, and I will be a changed individual and have my record expunged that I helped plan a murder.
It's just...
Those are the laws.
It's just... The lawless are running the state. And... It's,
how do you teach your kids right or wrong?
You know what? That's very good question. And in fact, it makes you wonder why those people in Sacramento are doing what they're doing. They're undermining our entire Republic of California, and they're putting the citizens here at risk. It's time for the California citizenry to stand up and to say, no, enough is enough. We're going to elect the right individuals for that office, and those people who are in those offices that have been breaking the law by legislating their way to do criminal acts against the society here, we want to have them held accountable. Because, you know, I'm reminded, and when I read this to you, and maybe people might not agree with me, but I am reminded of Hitler in that what he did was legal in terms of the way he saw it and the systems of that time. In terms of the Holocaust, and the rest of the world didn't see it that way, okay? But in terms of what they did, they built a whole structure around allowing what they did to people en masse. And just because you legislate something or make it a law does not make it okay or right, or in our case, constitutional. You know, it's really important for people to understand that it is about right and wrong.
Well, and here's the part that makes me more upset. Wealthier people can shield themselves from the silliness that went on. Working class people, they're the ones that are going to be hammered. They can't protect themselves very well from the gangs because they can't afford to go live in the nice communities. So to get to a point that you made about the legislature and a lot of those people up there, they're so disconnected from reality because of their wealth. My opponent's a multimillionaire. And so when you're a multimillionaire,
but there are good
you can
millionaires.
provide protection
but
and not have to deal with the laws that you just passed.
But here's the thing. There are plenty of millionaires who would never do that. I mean, I know a couple of them, and they would never think of doing what these people are doing. And I understand the thought that, you know, they're out of touch with reality, but I think it comes down to something more than that. I mean, it certainly isn't right or proper or moral, and I think that they can't relate because they don't live in that space, but the reality is I think that it doesn't matter how much money you have. There are good people and bad people, and these people are bad people. But I understand what you're saying, but the people have to also realize that they're the ones in control. You know, these minority groups or underrepresented groups or people who don't have as much as maybe, say, the middle class individuals have. I mean, they have equal power. They have equal ability to get out and vote
and that's
for new representation. You know, we have equality. They have to just realize that.
Somebody may be only making, you know, $30,000 a year and feel like they can't make a difference. Yes, you can. You can go vote, and you can realize what's been going on is not acceptable.
Right.
And vote to make that change that I'm asking people to vote to do, because I'm asking for their votes on November 6th, and realize it's time to make a change.
It is. It's time to make a change, and real and actual change. Not this hopey, changey stuff of Barack Obama era, okay? Yeah. There's a lot of hard work to be done. And we're not talking about shovel-ready jobs that paid for by the taxpayer with public money. We're talking about good hard work that needs to be done by everyday folks to get people like you effective and then also elected, and also to help you stay in office and do the work, because you know it's not going to get any easier. Okay.
No, it's not. Yes. And I've got plenty of people that have told me to watch out for my tires and windshields and brake lines. That's fine. I am focused on making a difference for people.
Right.
We have a lot of people that really want to do good things. You look at the nonprofits, they will do a better job of helping the homeless than any government agency. We are plowing billions with a B into the extra taxes to help the homeless. And what happens? That population just grows and grows and grows. And you keep asking yourself, where's all the money that I've been paying to do something about it? Well, it's all tied up in court. It's all tied up in committee. It's all tied up with, are they going to be able to buy this piece of land? Is the community going to allow us to put a shelter there? They're going to argue it out for years.
Right.
No, I say block grant the nonprofits today. And the next day, they will start making a difference. They know what to do. I trust nonprofits to go do the work and then ask the government that gives them the block grant money, audit them.
Well, and it's not even about...
Their audits will come out fine. You'll have a few bad apples along the way, but our homeless population will start to decline because they will get out there and actually do God's work that we should be doing to help people that need help. Not sit around and talk about it, which is what the politicians are doing.
Well, that, and you know, this is the reason. One of the reasons why we have nonprofits is so that way, you know, individuals who want to contribute, people who are philanthropists or have the means to do so, can do so, and get a tax break. I mean, there's a reason why we have these different modalities to be able to give to, you know, certain organizations. You're right, the nonprofits can do it better than government ever could. And I like that you're thinking about, you know, options other than government. Because more government is never the answer. So now what if you could get across one message to the people who are listening to you here today about your platform and what you want to do and everything, what would that be? Because we're getting close to the end of the interview.
I am not about political poetry. If you go to my website, I have laid out very blunt things that can happen that can make our communities better starting now, not later. This has been a difficult campaign. We have been embarrassed internationally. I'm asking to end that embarrassment and go to work.
Yes.
I want to be out there with people listening because there are a lot of dreams going on, and I hold those dreams right here because that is part of my responsibility as an elected official, is to help make sure the dreams of our moms and dads and their kids have the opportunity to come true. Government's job is to make sure doors get opened and that our society is better tomorrow than what it was today. That's where I'm focused at. I am asking for your help. As you know, Erin running for office and others running for office, this is not easy. So be it. I'm ready to go to work for everybody starting the morning of November 7th. If you'll please do your part on November 6th.
Now, can you give them your website real quick? I don't have it up here on the screen.
MikeCaresAboutUs.com. It actually shares a lot about my attitude and my message. MikeCaresAboutUs.com. Go there. I can use your $25. I can use your $50, so that way we can get the last ads placed that we need to get placed.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Mike, for being on the Erin Cruz Show. We're so blessed to have you on here and doing the good work in your district. And keep us updated. I know there are only a handful of days left. If you need to come on the show and get out some good word, we're here. And we can't wait to celebrate with you on November 6th.
Thank you, Erin. Appreciate all your help.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I know that I'm I am streaming live. We have a lot of candidates that are, you know, fighting across California. And, you know, we're wanting to get them here on the show. We're having a little bit of a delay, an issue. But we're wanting to get them on the show live to you because we really see that California needs help. Every day matters. Please, if you can make some phone calls for Mike, please do so. If you can send him $5, skip a latte, that would be great. Please share this video. You know, get out the good word, and also volunteer at your local Republican Party headquarters. Make sure that you stay connected with your fellow patriots who are doing the good, hard work. God bless you. God bless California. And God bless the United States of America.